Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, a few days ago, Devin Haney took to his Twitter account, X account, whatever you want to call it, and he said something that made me sit back and think to myself, Greg, you might have had it wrong. Devin Haney might be going about this in an absolutely brilliant way. And then he turned around and ruined it a few days later. So let's talk about it. A few days ago, Devin Haney took to X to state that he would take a year off and circle back to Ryan Garcia for a rematch, with both of them being clean, of course. And this, of course, was after we found out that Ryan Garcia was suspended for a year, and that that fight would be the biggest fight in boxing. Now, Devin Haney, almost every tweet since it was announced or we found out that Ryan Garcia had Austrian in his system during the fight, that's all he's talked about over and over and over again. And I'm like, dude, we get it, right? You keep talking about the same thing. You're not going to get any sympathy from most people. I mean, we understand it. Like, we've given you your sympathy, and continuing to talk about it's not going to continue to give you more sympathy. But when he made that statement, I said, oh, that's what he's doing. He is continuing to keep that in the minds of people, because if you think about it, if these two guys were to fight again, it would be a lot bigger than what it was in the first fight. Because I don't really think they sold like even that fake 500,000 that they have out there. I don't believe that's a true number either. But I do believe that they could do really good numbers, specifically if they could do it in the next few months, like a rematch. But even a year out, that fight would still be marketable because of all the controversy around the fight, right? Some people avidly feel that Ryan Garcia had a substantial advantage in the ring that night versus Devin Haney. Other people feel that the level of Austrian in the system would not have given Ryan Garcia a competitive advantage. And seeing them rematch, I think that would bring a lot of eyeballs to that fight. I think that fight could be big. So when he said it's the biggest fight in boxing, it could possibly be. If it were to take place in the next couple of months, right, the next few months, a year out, I don't know, but still a big fight. So I'm like, man, that might be a really good idea. But then he turns around yesterday and he says that he plans to sue Ryan Garcia because he believes that he suffered damages, not only emotionally and mentally, but also financially because of the outcome of the fight. And so he wants to sue Garcia for, I guess, part of his purse or whatever. I don't know what it is he's suing him for. And that is an absolute terrible idea. And that is the reason why I say he cannot get out of his own way. And here's why I personally believe that's a terrible idea. Now, I'm going to preface my comments by saying this. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. I'm a financial professional, a finance professional, if you will. But when I think about how you're going to have to substantiate this, maybe I should get my boy Fanon on here because we know Fanon is a lawyer by trade, but you have to substantiate that you have sustained damages from the act of Ryan Garcia, right? Financial damages. In order to prove that, you are going to have to, in a court of public record, disclose what you've made in previous fights. Not only that, you'll also have to disclose things like pay-per-view numbers, right? Because you can't simply argue that, you had a certain level of guarantee, right? We also need to know whether or not the promoter or the whole event won or lost money, because you need to understand exactly what it is you're generating. So we know that Bob Arum bid, it was only one bidder, and Bob Arum bid $2.4 million on that particular fight, right? Because that's what Bob believed the fight was actually worth. At least in terms of how it's worth relative to him being able to make a profit off of that particular fight with Sandor Martin. You have to disclose this. Like, what were you making in your prior fights, right? Like, we know that you said it yourself, Devin, that fighters take low guarantees, making their money on the back end. So your guarantee would have been low in your previous fight. I know Bob Arum wasn't paying you these huge guarantees, maybe $3-4 million at most. I think they said against Loma, I think you got maybe 4 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But you're going to have to disclose that information. And then we'll need to understand what the pay-per-view numbers were, because if I'm Ryan Garcia, I would argue that even though they paid you that, that's not what you actually were worth. And that's the reason why they bid so low on the Sandor Martin fight. Then you have to take into consideration the actual opponent, right? Sandor Martin. Who wants to see that fight? No one. No one is particularly interested in seeing him versus Sandor Martin, not when they have to, pay a substantial amount of money for it. So again, I don't see how it's possible that you can objectively show based off what he's probably prior to the Ryan Garcia fight in terms of his guarantee. I don't see how you objectively show that you were damaged, because I don't believe that his guarantee was all that high, and I believe that his fight against Rigondeaux didn't make any money, and I would suspect he didn't earn any back end versus Lomachenko. So even if you can prove any level of damage, it wouldn't be substantial from a financial standpoint as far as I can see, and I believe that you have to disclose information in order to do that. The other thing is, if I'm Ryan Garcia and you're suing me, why do I want to fight you again? That doesn't incentivize me to fight you again with you trying to sue me. Because guess what? Although maybe that fight would be fairly lucrative, if I'm Garcia and if I truly believe that I can make more money, maybe I still try to squeeze down to 140 pounds and fight Gervonta Davis, who said he would fight me at 140, and then I try to rehydrate up. There are other fights at 47 that my name carries enough value where I can probably make some decent money. But if you're sitting up and trying to sue me, more than likely I'm going to say to myself, why am I going to get in the ring and fight you? For what? Because there's still no guarantee that fight is going to do amazing numbers. So if I'm Ryan Garcia, it's specifically Ryan Garcia and his mindset, the way that he behaves, I'm like, nah, dude. I'm not fighting you. I'm not giving you a payday. Because, number one, I already feel wrong by what happened in this fight, which I think what happened to him was fair. By the letter of the law, you should have been suspended. But that's how Ryan feels. But number two, you sitting up here and you suing me. I'm not gonna go for that. I'm not gonna go for that. So to me, there's no real gain here. I think if there is some gain here from a financial standpoint, it's minuscule, because they bid $2.4 million. Devin may have been making guarantee of $3 or $4 million per fight, maybe something like that. He certainly wasn't making more than that, because I don't believe Eddie Hearn or Bob Arum are dummies. And so the majority of his money, if he was going to make big money, was on the back end. And I'm pretty sure the Rigondeaux fight didn't sell. Rigondeaux even stated that himself. And they say Loma earned about, 150,000 buys or something like that. So at 60 some bucks, I believe it was. That's not substantial money. That's about, what? Is that about 9.5 million? If I do simple math, napkin math, I believe that's about $9.5 million. So, what are you really talking about? Like, I just don't see what Devin has. I don't see what Devin stands to earn from this. I would just forget this, try to get Ryan in the ring for a rematch in a year and go from there. Those are my thoughts. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and I am out.